friends, and welcome to another tutorial here at MK Fingerstyle Academy, a channel dedicated to fingerstyle tabs and tutorials for the ukulele. As usual on this channel, most of my tabs are in low G, which means this tutorial is suitable for low G and baritone ukuleles, but this one also works for high G because there is no clear bass line and the bass notes are only there for harmony, meaning you can play this on all tunings. I have decided with this one to focus on the beginners. This is a grade 1 piece. It's a Waltz No. 8 from Carulli from his opus 241, and in case you don't know what that is a book published by Carulli designed for beginner classical guitar students that we are repurposing here for the ukulele. And this etude specifically focuses on the transitions between the G major chord to the D major chord, or if you're playing baritone / guitar, that is your D major transitioning to A major chords. There's nothing overly complicated here. We will look at the rhythms available, the right hand fingerings, the left hand fingerings, and most importantly, how to transition in legato between the chords so that you sound awesome and amazing without weird pauses that makes you sound choppy, and in most cases is the #1 reason that's preventing you from going from the beginner grades to the intermediate grades. With that out of the way, let's listen to the arrangement so you know what to expect, and then we'll get on with the tutorial. So before we get started, most of the concepts that I am going to be talking about in this tutorial are covered in deep length in my ukulele fingerstyle basics course. We're talking the right hand fingerings, the left hand fingerings, the posture, the rhythm, the notes, the frets, the transitions, legato, and all that stuff. So instead of repeating myself here in this tutorial and make it really long, I'm only going to refer to the concepts that are related to you, but if you want to dive deeper, then check out the basics course. So if you decide to enroll, welcome to the academy. I'll see you there. Right now, pick up your ukulele, tune it, and let's get started. So the first thing we have to cover with this one are the chord shapes. You have the G major if you're playing low G / high G ukulele, or the D major if you're playing baritone. And that is your open 4th string, first finger on the 2nd fret on the 3rd string, and then 3rd fret, 3rd finger on the 2nd string, and then 2nd finger, 2nd fret on the 1st string. And if you play all of them, that's your G major chord, and I am playing in low G. And we're going to transition to the D major chord, and that is your 1st finger and 2nd finger on frets 2 and 2 on strings 3 and 2 with an open 1st string. But if you play from a chord chart, you'll most likely know the D major as a 4-string chord going 2, 2, 2, and you either play it with fingers 1, 2, and 3, or 2, 3, and 4. Now, I personally don't like to assign fingers to chords because fingering chords will be different for each piece you learn depending on the context. And for my students at the academy, what I teach them is to always finger notes and frets and chords according to the context they're in, rather than rely on preset fingerings from chord charts, because in fingerstyle, there's a lot of scenarios where your stock fingerings don't really work or don't produce a legato sound. But for now, these are the G major and the D major chords. And before we play the piece, let's just take a quick survey and look at what rhythms we have. So this piece is in 3/8. That means there are 3/8 notes in a bar, and we get that in bar 2. You'll notice there's an 8th note, 8th note, 8th note, and that is simply 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. The other dominant rhythm is where you play 2 16th notes, 8th and 8th, and that is going to sound like 1 and 2, 3. 1 and 2, 3. So when you encounter the 16th notes, you know you have 2 quick notes, then slow, slow, 1 and 2, 3. And when you encounter the 8th notes, you know that that is 1, 2, 3. And you will be alternating between those 2 rhythms. So we start with a pickup to bar 1, and bar 1 is just a G major chord. We start with our middle finger on the 3rd string to play that D. so that when we play the G major chord, our index is free to play the second fret on the third string, and we avoid repeating our right hand finger, which, as I cover in the course, will most likely prevent you from sounding legato. In other words, alternating our right hand fingers is what we're after here. So we're gonna go with middle, thumb and index, middle, ring for the right hand fingers. For the left hand, we're just pressing a G major chord fingers like we discussed before. Watch out for that rhythm. 1 and 2, 3. Now, as we transition into bar 2, it gets a little bit difficult, and this is why this is a grade 1 and not a prep grade piece. You will have to cut the chord, in other words, make it short, and quickly transition to playing the third fret with your fourth finger and the second fret with your first finger, so that your third and second fingers are free to play the 2 frets that come right after that. So again, that is your thumb and index for the right hand, and you're playing 1 and 4, which is not a common fingering to play this particular version of a D major chord with a G in the melody. So your goal is to have the third and the second free so that you can finish placing the D major chord. So if you go to bar 1, watch out for the timing between when you let go of the G major chord. Resist the urge to. If you do that, the pause will be obvious and it will not sound legato, it will sound bad. You have to pay attention to the timing of letting go way at the end, so the pause is minimal and people will not be able to perceive it as a mistake, but instead will hear it as part of the transition. Watch out for that rhythm, it's eighth notes, 1, 2, 3, and watch out for the right hand fingerings, it's index, middle, index, so that we avoid repeating the same right hand finger on those 2 notes on the second string. If you play it with middle, then middle and index, then you're repeating a finger. We want to avoid that, so it's thumb and index, middle, index. Now we're going to go into the D major chord, and that is 1, 2, but instead of playing an open first string, we're going to put our fourth finger and play a high C. And the right hand fingerings are thumb, index, middle, index. Moving on to bar 4. That is a G major chord, but with an open A string, and I'm going thumb and ring, middle, index. Now bar 5 repeats bar 1, and now we're gonna play the same as a bar 3. So bar 5 is the same as bar 1, bar 6 is the same as bar 3. And bar 7 is a little bit different. It's all 16th notes, so you're gonna be playing 1 and 2 and 3 and. Okay, so that's a lot of notes in a row. And the fingerings for that, a G major chord, 1 and 2 and. Notice how I finish on a ring finger on the second fret on the first string. And now I'm gonna play thumb and middle, index, and then I finish on that G note. So the trick here really is in the right hand fingerings of playing the last note of the G major chord with the ring, and then thumb and middle, index, and then finishing on bar 8, the G note. Again. Notice how the second fret on the third string is a common finger, common fret between the 2 chords. So you don't have to let go of it. 1 and 2 and 3 and 1 and 2 and 3. 1 and 2 and 3 and 1 and 2 and repeat. Now if you look at the tab, you'll see that there's a repeat sign, so make sure you play that again. And then on the second time, we will move on to bar 9. Bar 9 is a D major chord. We've seen this rhythm before. Thumb, index, middle. G major chord, A major but with the 7th, that's the high C, 4th finger on that 3rd fret, and then we get a little melody here, thumb and ring, middle, index. For the left hand, you can go 2nd finger open, 3rd finger, or 2nd finger open, 4th finger. up to you. So that's a melody, and then we repeat it again. G, D7, G, and then back to D. And then it's the same as bar 1 to bar 8. We've already learned that. Now, here's one thing you can do that will increase the level of the piece but make it sound really cool, is if you add staccato before those chords. So instead of going long, long, notice how all the notes resonate to that chord? You can make it short so it sounds like this. It just makes it pop a little bit as people are anticipating that chord, right? Gives it a little bit of energy. And I'm suggesting this so I get the excuse of introducing an advanced concept or advanced technique to you, and that is full planting. The way to get that effect of muted note that's very clean before you hit the chord is you would arpeggiate those notes. That's thumb, index, middle, as written. But then when you play the chord, which is also thumb, index, middle, before you play that chord with your right hand, you would plant your fingers on the strings you're going to play. So I am going to use my thumb, index, and middle to play strings 3, 2, and 1. So then I would plant those fingers on those strings before I play the chord. And what that does is, if those strings are vibrating, I would be muting all of them at the same time in a precise movement with no buzzing, and it will sound crisp. So that's the full planting, which is a technique that you will use a lot in the advanced grades, especially if you want to learn how to roll arpeggios, or if you want to be really fast with your arpeggios. Full planting is integral to that technique and that speed. And this is a perfect spot to just learn how to do it. So that is thumb, index, middle, plant, chord, plant, plant. So that's something cool that you can add on if you are already familiar with those chord shapes, just to make it spicy. All links are in the video description. Make sure to subscribe. And if you're in the mood for another tutorial, then check out this one I made right here specifically for you beginners interested in fingerstyle ukulele. So go out there and I'll see you in that tutorial.